Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the New Shoreham Town Council meeting of Monday, March 7th, 2022. The New Shoreham Town Council is hosting a hybrid meeting in person and via Zoom telecommunications pursuant to State of Rhode Island Executive Order 2201 dated February 6, 2022 as amended. We do not have the bandwidth to support a video link for members of the general public, so participate by raising your hand on your phone by pressing *9, mute and unmute by pressing *6. To see the supporting documents for this agenda, they're on the clerkbase.com/New Shoreham website, or you can tune into the YouTube channel, New Shoreham. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. First item on the agenda, is there any public comment? Wow, pretty full tonight. Kristen Bauman.
I'm Kristen Bauman, resident of High Street. I just wanted to say, if I could, a public comment that I often hear from the council and from individual members of the council that you'd like more participation at meetings. And I know that you usually put closed session at the end, but if that could happen always, it makes it easier to attend meetings. That a few meetings ago, the closed session was at the beginning. And I know there was things, we were waiting out in the parking lot to come in and speak. And it was actually after that meeting, I think, that Mark said, too bad we didn't have people here for this. It's really hard for us to get in the door when we don't know when the meeting starts. So, and I know you usually have it at the end, but just as a little feedback, it's very helpful to have public comment at the end to be able to attend. Thank you.
Wasn't that meeting at 6 o'clock?
Yes. 6.
The closed session was at 6, I think.
Before the meeting.
But Kristen's point is, but I don't know if it started at 7 or 6:50.
No, that wasn't how the agenda read.
You're right, it
It was a funky one. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Sven?
Just to let everybody on the council know and everybody in the audience, on April 6th, the Champlin's case is going before the Supreme Court. And Catherine Marola and Dan Prentice, plus 3 other lawyers are representing the town and all the conservation groups. And Mr. Goldberg is representing the Champlins. So I'll repeat that name in case nobody knows it, Mr. Goldberg.
Guy who represents the tourism.
And
knock it off.
And I will probably go, if it's okay, for the town. I mean, I'll just sit there. We can't do anything, but I'll definitely go to the meeting. So
Great.
spring, April 6th.
Anybody else, public comment? Thanks very much. Item number two, which was tabled from March 2nd, 2022, is discuss and act on the amended easement for the National Grid Cable Project. Mary Ann, do you have an update on the easement for the?
So,
National Grid
yeah, we
Cable
had a
Project?
meeting this afternoon with the team from New Shore, the town, and also the team from National Grid. We are still working on one particular area in the agreement. I am meeting with the team tomorrow and then hopefully revisiting that with National Grid. So I will come back to the council regarding that. So I'm asking the council to table that item again this evening. I may request a special meeting prior to the March 16th meeting. So that's where that stands at this point.
Thank you.
Just real quickly
Go ahead.
on that. So our delays or the delays of these meetings are not any excuse to go into June, right? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number three is to authorize the hunting, possession, and taking of deer within the boundaries of the town of New Shoreham. We have to authorize, as it says on the agenda, for local control. Council, it's in your packet. I'll make a motion to authorize the hunting, possession, and taking of deer within the boundaries of the town of New Shoreham for the 2022/2023 deer hunting season.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. Any discussion, council? Public? Hearing none. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor, Sven?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item number 4 on the agenda is discussion with Rhode Island Airport Corporation regarding the implementation of unpaid managed parking at the Block Island State Airport. I do believe we have some representatives from RIAC with this update on.
Yes, sir. This is John Goodman here. If you can hear me. I also have two colleagues who I think are in the attendees room. If you can, that would be Yil Surhan and Dennis Greco. If you can add them as panelists, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for joining us and giving us this update. I will let you give us that update.
Okay. I believe if Yil and Dennis are on at this point, I'll just give a quick background. When last we spoke before the council, we had provided a preliminary outline of a free but managed short-term parking program for Block Island State Airport. And we're here tonight simply to provide some additional details. By way of background, as most on the council know, parking on Block Island is, shall we say, challenging for most residents, especially during tourist season. And we have seen challenges for airport parking as well. So our hope is that a free but managed short-term parking program can better assure that airport parking is available for airport patrons, while also addressing the perennial challenge of abandoned vehicles clogging the airport parking lot. So at this time, I'd like to turn things over to my colleague, Yil Surhan, who can provide more details about this program.
Thank you, John. Good evening, town council members. Happy New Year, since we haven't spoken since last year. I'd just like to give you an overview of the Block Island State Airport managed parking program. It is very similar to the parking program we previously provided, with the exception of the effective date. As you know, the goals for this program are to ensure that that the limited airport parking capacity is available for airport customers and contractors. We want to alleviate parking congestion caused by long-term and seasonal parking, and also for abandoned vehicles. The way we're going to do it is we're going to manage the parking without the introduction of parking fees or charges. We plan to utilize signage to promote the awareness of the restrictions, and we will enforce these requirements. So in terms of the process, this parking program would be effective April 1 of 2022. We will install signs at the parking lot informing drivers that parking is for active airport customers only, and there's no long-term parking greater than 14 days. Flight Level Aviation, the FBO, will regularly monitor the parking lot to identify vehicles parked over 14 days. And we will require contractors to coordinate with Flight Level Aviation for longer-term parking needs in the designated parking area. And so, together with Flight Level and Our police department, we will make all efforts to contact owners of delinquent vehicles requesting that the vehicles be removed. We are providing 6 weeks for the vehicles to be removed upon contacting the owners. And then at our discretion, these delinquent vehicles may be towed from the airport property at the owner's expense. We're going to continue to monitor the performance and effectiveness of this program throughout the year to see how it works during the off season and during the peak season. And so we, without any other items to talk about, happy to open this up to the town council for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much. And thanks for giving us this update. Does the council have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I'll start. John, what's the policy of the other airports when it comes to towing? Are we delinquent because we don't have a spot to tow them to as a town? Or do you usually handle that from within and have a little spot somewhere on the airport grounds to tow the cars?
I probably turn that one over to our Senior Vice President, Dennis Greco, who also oversees public safety and airport police. But certainly Block Island is going to be an outlier in terms of the challenge of towing vehicles compared to those landside, obviously.
Yeah, because we're a toothless tiger if we're threatening to tow them, we have no place to tow them to.
Well, there's another point here also.
Martha Ball?
Require contractors to coordinate with flight level aviation for longer term parking needs in designated parking areas. Are those designated parking areas at the airport? Does that contradict something else in this statement?
I think what that conveys
John?
is that we are trying to work with people. Gil, if you'd like to address that.
Yes, thank you. Very good question. The contractors would park in the parking lot at the airport. It's just up to the contractors to reach out to flight level and work with them to let them know that their work vehicles are here at the airport. And they would be excused from the 14-day requirement. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mark Reese?
Yeah, let's go back to towing. Are we not fulfilling what we should be doing by not providing a place to tow them to? And if so, should we be addressing that issue?
We're working through the towing issues. We're looking at options either to tow the vehicles somewhere else on the island or even off island.
They may very well be owned by people who have property on Block Island.
So,
That's the biggest problem, I think.
Mary Ann, not Mary Ann, I'm sorry. Well, yes, Mary Ann, in the council, we've been discussing a tow lot for the town. The town does need a tow lot, Mark, I agree with that 100%. As an option, does RIAC have any possible space up at that airport that the town could possibly lease for our own towed vehicles for like an impound lot? Is there any room for discussion with the town leadership on that?
Very good question. We are definitely open to that discussion. We do have some land available that we have been trying to lease, and we're happy to entertain those discussions. So maybe we'll set up a meeting after this to further pursue and vet that opportunity.
That would be great if Mary Ann and staff could meet with you and then give the council, an update on that. Nice to have the option. I mean, there's also a possibility I see in here that, you are having, you're going to be the, policing and not ticketing, but could our police ticket vehicles up there? Could our police patrol that lot and ticket those vehicles and maybe have a little bit of more income for the town if we have to put a fenced in tow lot up there?
That's property owned by RIAC.
Yeah.
I can have that discussion with them. I'm not ready to answer that question right now.
Okay. Great.
We just went through a whole aviation
Yeah.
related uses. Not sure where, maybe I'm thin ice here.
They can have a conversation. let us know.
I don't see moving the cars around at the airport is solving the problem.
Talking about an impound,
I know what
an
you're
impound
talking
lot
about.
for,
I know exactly what you're talking about, but you're talking about doing it at the airport. So
Which is non-aviation.
what's the,
Truck.
but the whole point was getting them out of there.
Sven, do you have a comment?
Yeah, real quickly, you mentioned this long-term, beyond 14 days as long-term. Is that going to be in the same parking area, or is there another space maybe just to the, would that be east of that regular lot where some cars already park? I mean, are you differentiating a little bit between long and quote unquote short term, or is that all in the same area?
It would be all in the same area. So if you're not a contractor, we treat everybody equally. So anybody leaving their vehicle longer than 14 days, we will begin the process of identifying the owner to try to get them to move the vehicle.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none. I want to thank you guys for coming to our meeting this evening. Oh, go ahead, David.
David Lewis, for the record, Quinnemus Road. So the words I'm going to use in a minute don't quite square with the gentleman's definition of one single space rather than two independent spaces. So just bear with me so I get the words out almost right. One of the lessons that the town has learned, particularly with the mopeds in the medical center, but I think it's going to keep showing up more and more often, is the fact that we never have any statistics to support an action. We have to then stop and collect statistics. So I'm suggesting to council that right off the bat, in part of this discussion with this program, that we ask RIAC to upfront to collect specific metrics meaningful to the town, to help the town and RIAC understand the specifics of airport parking utilization for future planning purposes. Suggested metrics might include the following: the number of contractor vehicles with longer term needs, the number of contractors the number of contracts vehicles not identifying longer term needs that are occupying the shorter term spaces, the total number of vehicles utilizing shorter term spaces overnight, and others that you may think are meaningful. The point being that this is the time to partner with RIAC and collect meaningful data that help them and you reach rational decisions at the next stopping point to evaluate the program's success. So I leave you with that thought. And since, well, I'll leave it up to you to move forward, however you proceed.
Thank you, David. Would the gentleman from RIAC like to comment on Resident Lewis's statement?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Understood your questions. They're definitely in line with what we're thinking. As I alluded to in my last point, we're going to monitor the performance and the effectiveness of the program. As a requirement for doing that, we're going to be recording, just as you said, categorizing the number of vehicles that are using the airport parking lot for the short term, for the long term, the number of vehicles that and owners that we have to reach out to. And so we'll be collecting these statistics. So over the course of the year, as we're evaluating this program, the only way to fully evaluate it and to determine whether or not it's working is by collecting these statistics. So thank you very much. Is a very good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
One last question, and I'm excited about the data collection, so thank you. Can you just clarify for me, 14 days, does that mean it's 14 nights? Because if I am a contractor, I fly in, I move the truck during the day, come back at night, go home, quote unquote. What does 14 days mean, just so we can be clear on that?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that a day is a 24-hour day. And of course, you know, we're not really going to split the hairs on this thing. If it's 14 days and 13 nights, all right, we'll give you an extra night. I mean, we're going to have a little leeway in determining whether somebody's here for the day versus a night. But once you're here for longer than 14 nights and 14 days, we will then begin the process of identifying the owner of the vehicle and then taking the next steps. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just add that as, hopefully we address any of the issues with abandoned vehicles, that itself will quantify some success and that there is available parking for those who need it. And that we've addressed that problem at the very least moving forward, allowing more room for contractors and others who need to be parking at the airport. But thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate this. We're happy to follow up with the council for any additional questions after the meeting as well.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Good night. Thank you.
Item number 5 on the agenda is a discuss and act on a recommendation of the New Shoreham Sewer Commission to add Plat 10, Lot 72 to the New Shoreham Sewer District. Council, seen the packet. Brad here, sewer? Are you here for sewer? Okay, thanks. Is Dylan? Dylan, you there?
I am.
Want to give us a rundown of 1072?
1072 Ebbets Hollow. It's running onto the Gaffett line. There's no concerns on the sewer end. They're running off a well. As far as water goes, it's a low pressure system, standard connection. So no concerns on the sewer department side.
Thank you, Dylan. Council, any questions for the superintendent? Public questions? I'll make a motion to add Plat 10, Lot 72 to the New Shoreham Sewer District.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. Comment? All those in favor, Mark?
Aye.
And Sven?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Martha? Martha's in favor. Motion carried 4-0. Thanks, Dylan. Item number 6, discuss and act on a mobile food establishment license, Block Island Gourmet, authorized agreement for the use of town property, Plat 4, Lot 68, and renewal of the MFE permit. I have one of those permits licenses, so I'm going to turn this over to Sven. Let me know.
Thank you. We'll let you know when. Yep. A minute. 2 minutes. Is Sean on the line? Oh, Mr. Clifford.
Rosalie's here on the line.
Hey, Rosalie.
Hi.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory, repeating the past, what you did last year, or maybe more frequent. Do you want to say about the application, or point anything special out?
Nope.
Okay, any questions? Any questions by council?
Yeah, my only question, is Kathy with us tonight?
No, she's not.
Now, maybe you can answer, Mariana. Are we liable in any way, shape, or form if there's a problem that happens down there?
If you look at this, it does have, let me find the paragraph where it talks about indemnification and also the fact they have to provide the insurance. So I'm comfortable with it.
You are.
And Kathy Marola has reviewed this agreement.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Martha? Anybody in the public, basically, just to make sure it's authorized agreement for the use of the land, Plat 4, Lot 68, and then renewal of the MFE permit. Any questions? Kristen Bauman has her hand up.
I was just curious, is there a window to renew the MFE permits, or is it ongoing? And I wondered if Kelly got hers.
So it's a great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, because I actually asked it today. So as you may remember, about 2 years ago, the state sort of inserted themselves within the whole food truck world, and on Block Island, excuse me, and what used to be an annual calendar where we would do everybody on the same day, and it was very clear, it is now a 1 year since the license. So Andres was a couple months ago. This is now, another one's going to be, I think, in June. I mean, it's a lot more work and a lot more of a pain, but it is what it is. It's a great question. Thank you. Okay. I make a motion to renew the MFE license, continue working on Mosquito Beach food truck site on Plat 4, Lot 68. Second. Seconded by Mark. Any further dialogue? Martha? Nope. Martha, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative as well. This passes 3-0 with Andre recusing and Keith absent. Second thing is renewal of the MFE permit. I make a motion to renew the permit for 1st of January. Anyway, for Block Island Gourmet, a Rhode Island limited liability company, hereinafter Island Gourmet, and the town of New Shoreham for 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? And how do you vote, Mark?
Aye.
Martha? I vote in the affirmative. That's unanimous, 3-0 with Andre recusing and Keith absent. Millie, is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Randy, could you?
He's coming.
Oh, he is good. Thank you.
Good luck, Rose.
Good luck. Oh, and when you guys are you going to be open all summer?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you very much.
We're cruising. Shut up. Thanks, Ben.
Item number 7 is meet with the Commission of Motor Vehicles for Hire to discuss the point-to-point taxi service. I see Brad and Judy are here this evening. to Talk about that. You want to talk about that?
I think you guys have a synopsis that was given to you by Hillary, if I'm not mistaken. I also emailed a kind of a bullet point synopsis, which is covering the same thing. This report was put together through no little work. Judy Clark did a huge amount of work just tracking the information for the point-to-point taxi service this past summer. She, as well as 19 other taxis of the 31 participated in the program. Okay, the service was run from June 25th to August 28th. Over that time period, which is give or take a little bit, basically 8 weeks for the most part, you're looking at, and this was run every half hour from and to New Harbor. 456 passengers were transported. Of that, 391 adults, 32 employees, which were discounted, and 33 children. It was an average of 9 people a day, or 1 person an hour. Okay. Overall, there was a little just shy of $2,100 that was generated in revenue that were transported, or an average of $521 an hour. That's not even including some of their expenses for the taxi license holders that put this together. I think you guys are familiar with the routes, but it did have a number of stops, 5 stops. Basically, in order from Old Harbor and reverse to New Harbor, same route. Rebecca's was the pickup spot, stopping at going from there to Fred Benson Town Beach, then to Payne's and Deadeyes, then to the Ore, and finally at Champlin's, and then reversing from there. The rates, as you guys know, were $5 for adults, $1 for children under 8, $1 for dogs, and $3 for employees that worked on the island. And the main feedback that Judy and other drivers collected from the drivers was, for the most part, they did not want to deal with the stops. In other words, you're talking with an island that's 3 miles by 7 miles. And if they were in New Harbor, they didn't want to necessarily stop at, if they started at Champlin, didn't want to necessarily stop at the Ore, and then Deadeyes, and then the beach, and then downtown. They wanted to go directly there, or whatever their location was. The bright spots of the whole program, and I think this is not just a program, but you know, I think congestion overall was reduced and lessened, at least last year, due to the skilled traffic control that Chief Moynihan put together when the ferries came in, which was one of the biggest concerns that the town had with regards to congestion and everything. Another point brought up by others was that, you know, maybe there needs to be some traffic control at Bridgegate Square as well, because of the tie-up which always happened or seemed to happen when the ferries would get off. During the whole point-to-point service, known town council representative, and they were requested from you guys, was able to form a ride-along with the point-to-point taxis or the regular taxis. Mary Ann was very gracious and was able to coordinate going along with Sue, I believe, okay, for a regular taxi service to see how they coordinate and how much they communicate along with each other. She was not able to coordinate for the point-to-point, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but she was the only one that was able to go for the whole 8-week period and put that all together. Now, this is kind of a summarizing what the work that Judy herself had put together. She may have something to say on this as well, but the overall impression was that, you know, for an island that's 3 miles by 7 miles, most people did not want to deal with extended stays to go somewhere. I mean, if you're wanting to go somewhere, you want to get their employees, while they got a reduced rate, they wanted to get where they needed to be, or they would drive themselves or walk themselves or pay for the taxi to do it. I know when discussions were originally opened with RIPTA, you know, their service fees would have been a whole lot more than this as well, with a much bigger vehicle. And most of the vehicles that participated in this were the larger passenger vans. There were a couple, I believe, at least one small.
You needed the small car that you could get down to one, 2-passenger seat and be fine.
Just simply because of the ridership, and it was promoted in the Block Island Times. It was promoted heavily by the chamber as well, and there was signage that was put up as well. So in a synopsis, that's what overall happened with it. We would certainly welcome some more feedback on it, but I think the general feedback and consensus of the taxi license holders that it just wasn't worthwhile. They do such a great job on their own and communicating with people and getting people around and moving people around. And I think you saw some of that last year as well, because there weren't, you know, the 31 taxis were on the road versus 2020, where a significant number were not due to COVID and the pandemic. That they really don't want to continue with it. Is that correct?
Basically, I felt like I was doing a song and dance routine all over the island when I was doing this shuttle, because I'd get out of my car and I'd say, you know, you can have a little mini tour, you know, you can go see the beach, a little bit of this, and then I even put signs up that said, go to the New Harbor and enjoy dinner or lunch out looking over the boats. You can go to the New Harbor and go kayaking, and, you know, I was trying to, you know, get that as part of it, to get people to leave town, to go over there. What I'm seeing in the big picture is that we need to get more businesses to open up in the New Harbor to spread it out. Whether that's a big picture. You know, that's an idea that I've had. I can see that a lot of people from the boats, getting off the boats, all they want to do is go to town, buy some cigarettes and some booze, and go to the grocery store and go back again. They don't want necessarily to go into town and hang out there. So what happens is we have to charge them. They don't want to go on the shuttle because they want to just go. And if you look at it, there's 10 square miles, there's 32 cabs, that means there's 3 cabs every square mile on this island. You cannot pretty much go anywhere without seeing a cab. I think that we handle everything very well, we're very organized. We work together even though we don't like each other a lot, but we still manage to do that somehow because we care about the people. And there's only a couple times during the day when it gets crazy for like an hour, and then it's like it didn't even happen after the hours gone by. There's very seldom you're going to find, if you had a large bus, for example, there's very seldom you're going to find that many people going where you want, where you're going. There, 2 are going to the beach, 2 are going to there, 4 are going over here. None of them are going as a large group to one place. You know, and I've heard talk about driving around the whole island. Well, you'll be not only driving from harbor to harbor alone, like we did, but now you'll be driving around the whole island alone when that cab is needed for what's happening. It's being taken out of the system and put in a place where it's traveling by itself with nobody in it. And that's a total waste. And that person that each person, I sort of rounded it out. I really don't have the real numbers, but each person that actually did the shuttle, probably that summer lost about $2,000. I'm just throwing that out. It's probably more, it could be less, depending on the driver and how they work. But I get up at 7 in the morning and I go home like 9, 10 o'clock at night now because I'm 71. I used to stay out till 2 o'clock in the morning and get up at 7 and do all that, but we have enough taxis out. Maybe we could work on a better schedule for evening stuff. But for a few years there wasn't a lot of night activity, so they all stopped doing it. Then they started up, and in other words, I can tell you within 5 minutes how many people are gonna be in a certain spot and what they want, and where they wanna go, and what they wanna do. I've done 50 years now, I think it is. I started driving for Omar Littlefield. I like to keep my distance. But anyway, so
I
candy is money. But anyway, so I don't say I'm an expert, but I feel like I know how everything works. And because of how everything works, we have amongst us, all the 32 cabs, developed a system that is unbelievable. And it works really well, and that's because of the radio. We all keep in touch. If I get a call and I'm in town and somebody's calling from Champlins, I go on the radio and I say, is anybody near Champlins? Or is anybody near here, whatever. And that's how we do it. We share it. It's not like I'm gonna hold on to 5 calls and try to get them all and keep them waiting. We give it out and we want to keep the people moving, and that's what we do.
I think what Judy's saying is that she feels the taxis do a remarkable job, and I feel that they do as well. With regards to the point, the biggest problems is that people wanted to get to where they wanted to go, not run on a 30-minute or so trip, which was not necessarily necessary on a small island. When you compare it to someone like Martha's Vineyard, where you might have 20, 30 minutes in between towns to get there, that's a little bit different. And that is a service that is not the same as what you're doing here. I mean, you all know, every single one of you, when you want to get somewhere, you don't want to necessarily be doing a lot of side trips. And think about the people from the tourists that are coming over here, whether they're day trippers or whether they are individuals coming for a long period of time and they're not bringing their cars, which admittedly we'd like to see less cars out here. However, those people, when they want to get somewhere, they want to get somewhere. They don't want to go on a side trip. And the most popular route of the point-to-point seemed to be from New Harbor to Old Harbor, if I'm not mistaken. Going to the beach was something that was not very popular at all, because you're talking about loading up with beach chairs and everything else, and they got a taxi or they got a private vehicle to get there.
Thank you both very much. And in my opinion, this has been a big topic. What I'm hearing, and I've read now enough, is that the MBH is not going to do a shuttle this year, right? And going forward.
That's correct.
And it is what it is. And I guess I think we should. I wish Lars had been here because I know he had some opinions and had feedback from some businesses. I guess an idea would be to have a discussion with the businesses and with the community and sort of get an idea of what are people saying and what are people wanting to do. And if there is a clamor, I'll use that word, a clamor for a shuttle or some service, figure out what that is and how it could ever work. And, thank you for all the work you did.
Because there is a lot of opinion out there, but unfortunately in this situation, the 4 of you or 5 of you, as the case may be, it would have been a benefit if you had actually gone on it and experienced what was on there. I'm just simply saying, and a lot of the people that are giving feedback as well are giving feedback without necessarily having experienced it either. A lot of it is thought, but.
So we follow up on that in another meeting.
Sure. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Also, if there's a way that we can help and find a niche somewhere where it would work, that would be great. I'm not gonna, it's ridiculous to have public cabs driving around empty, but if there's like some way to take larger groups all at once, we're in. You can figure that out.
Thanks, Judy.
Sorry. I just talk all day about this.
How about Blues on the Beach? You got something to say on Blues on the Beach? Damn. Item number 8, discuss and act on a request from Jimmy Murray for town sponsorship of the Blues on the Beach the following dates: July 6th and 20th, August 3rd, 17th, and 31st. Is Mr. Murray with us this evening? Millie, or is somebody from Laws doesn't chamber sponsor this?
This came from, directly from Jim Murray.
Yeah.
What dates?
But I don't see them.
Hold on, I'm going to correct the dates, July 6th and 20th. I'm reading off the agenda. August 3rd, 17th, and 31st.
I think there's a conflict with the 17th.
That's what's on his letter.
Okay.
What's the letter?
No, it's in packet from Murray.
March
What's the
1st,
17th?
Tuesday, March 1st.
17th was taken off.
No?
Not that I'm aware. Not very aware. It was a conflict with the Summer Symphony. What have you got?
Yes, I do know that the symphony is the 17th, so
So did you say you had a letter?
Well, it's in,
it's in the packet.
it's the same dates as on the
I thought
agenda.
you said you got a letter from Jim.
Oh, no, no.
So we have an agenda item for the 17th. We have a letter on the 17th. We don't have anybody to speak to the 17th. But we shouldn't approve the 17th from what we've heard.
I would suggest you approve the dates. If there's a conflict with the 17th, let us look into it. We'll get back to you. But I would suggest approve the dates as presented and eliminate the 17th, and we'll get back to you. Millie will follow up with him.
You want to restate your motion?
I didn't make one.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
But I'll probably have to redo it. I did speak to the chief about this. He's all happy. He's done it he's done it last year. He said he really had no problems with it and thought it was a great event for the town. So I will make a motion to request to approve the request for Blues on the Beach, the 2022 dates at the Town Beach Pavilion for July 6th, July 20th, August 3rd, August 17th, and don't do it. All right, I was just gonna, in case. All right. I'm going to make a motion to allow, to grant the request for Blues on the Beach 2022 dates for the Town Beach Pavilion for July 6th, July 20th, August 3rd, and August 31st.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Keith? It's Keith, he's not here. Sven?
I don't have a beard and I have hair. Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Motion will carry 4-0. Summer planning already. Here we go. Let's see. I know.
No.
Item number 9 is the approval on Rhode Island Cybersecurity Grant Program application. Mary Ann, you want to take that over?
Yeah, sure. This is a grant application that we applied for to the Secretary of State's office, and the council needs to just approve the grant as submitted for application. The grant has already been submitted due to the deadline we had with it.
Action,
Just approve the grant as submitted.
make a motion to, hold on, I'm gonna get back to
Approve the
that.
application as submitted. Cybersecurity,
Basically, just making sure the computers are tight and.
yeah.
And I know.
Have it spread out across the town.
It's strictly with the clerk's office.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know in the past, there were some questions or thoughts on security and ways to improve it. I assume all that's been taken care of and we're in good shape.
We're doing really well with the security, yes.
Thank you for that. I know that was a bit of a shock, so. Okay.
It was all set sometime ago. I think I emailed it out.
Yeah, I was more for,
Public consumption.
yeah.
Make a motion to approve the Rhode Island Cybersecurity Grant as submitted by the town manager.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Mark?
Aye.
And Sven?
Aye.
I'm in favor, Martha?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item number 10 is discuss and act on a resolutions regarding the prohibiting the availability of Class C alcohol beverage licenses. B, opposition to Bill Senate 2135 relating to alcoholic beverages, retail licenses, happy hours. C, opposition to Bill House 7198 relating to binding arbitration from municipal employees. And D, initiate legislation to amend the tax rate structure on Block Island. go down the list. Does anybody have any comments regarding a resolution just eliminating the Class C license on the liquor licenses available to the town?
I do not.
Martha, you
This
got?
has to be proofread, I just blew it out. Because I kept missing Molly's deadline. I've explained this a number of times, but this Class C license is the one I think most of anybody who's been paying any attention at all knows is one of those ones that has to be there because you have to have one of every license available. And we have not, to best of my knowledge, ever had one that has remained a Class C license as soon as was a possibility of getting the B license. And I just feel like it's disingenuous. Why have it? And the reason that I'm asking, that I think we should ask for it, is Coventry, Situate, South Kingston are authorized to prohibit by ordinance the issuance of these licenses. So it's not, we are not asking for something that isn't done other places in the state. And I think without getting into great details, this is the license. It's just liquor and packaged food, which just seems to me horribly irresponsible.
Thanks, Martha. Brad, do you have a comment?
I just questioning the Class C, how it actually did. I knew it included packaged food, but is it a full bar service?
It was, Millie it's a full bar service. You have to be closed on Sundays and closed at midnights.
There's some weird thing about beer in cans and
I believe it is a full bar.
it is full bar now.
Yep,
I mean, it's.
I worked in one.
Yeah, that's a program for the time.
It's closes at midnight and not open on Sundays. And you can't have a full kitchen. You got to serve packaged food. Is that also part of
Yeah,
that?
Newport does have some allowance where it does, it's Class C that can have restaurant food, but that just seemed to be complicating things. And I know when we had them before, people would say, how come that place is, different rules apply?
Does anyone currently use one?
No, that's part of the point of this was, this is a year we do not have one out there. The provision in the law, as was written for those three other towns I mentioned, they all had, if there was a Class C, they all had the option to get a Class B, which we would have also, if we had one in place, which we don't. And there's no opportunity between now and the time this would go to the assembly for anyone to submit to one. And again, it just felt like we all know where this is going. Why don't we just be honest about it?
I think to my recent memory, the last two that I remember in the town were the Albion started as a Class C. And Tigerfish may have started with a Class C.
And I think
The Old Island
Yeah.
Pub started as a Class C. Yep, so.
So basically, that's just there to get in the door.
Right.
that's what historically it's been proven out here. That's,
And then you just wait and you
Yeah.
get, when you get the slaughter and stuff, you
In essence, they have to close at 12, they can open at 6. License offers to sell prepackaged foods prepared off the premises. It's no kitchen, sort of, it's, here's your whatever.
I think it's one of the rules, the liquor laws in Rhode Island were put in when the Volstead Act was repealed. And if anybody doesn't have anything to do someday, read through them, they're pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
There are some really strange underground comfort station in Providence that was open before 1913 or something like that. There's some real oddities.
Is the resolution ready to go? Because
I don't
if
know.
we,
I
well,
haven't read it. I mean, if anybody actually read it,
Yes, I did.
are there any?
I don't see any typos or odd edits.
Because I can't see typos in what I write.
You're
It's
good with
the
it,
paper
right?
of the test.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the New Shoreham Town Council resolution prohibiting Class C licenses in the town of New Shoreham dated March 7th, 2022, R-06-2022.
Second.
Seconded by Andre.
Motion been made, seconded. All those in favor, Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor, Sven?
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
Motion carries on that resolution.
What do we have now?
Opposition to bill, New Shrum Town Council Resolution, opposition to Senate 2135 relating to alcoholic beverages, retail licenses, and happy hours. This was brought to us by staff. Mary Ann, could you give me a summary on this?
Which one would you like to summary?
10B.
The happy hours.
The happy hour bill, we discussed it at a recent council meeting where Chief Monahan was here, and you specifically asked him questions about this, and based on his questions and answer that, you asked us to come up with a resolution in opposition of the happy hour bill.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the council? Public?
So go ahead.
This is to get rid of happy hour.
No, it's really about hyping happy hour with food.
Currently, happy hour is not allowed in Rhode Island. It has been for a number of years, and now they're putting it back on. There's legislation pending to reestablish happy hour.
So in this document, sorry about that.
No, I was just gonna.
In this document, it says now, therefore be it resolved that the town of New Shrum sees no need to offer inducements via quote happy hours end quote or other such marketing strategies to encourage more consumption of alcoholic beverages. And it keeps going, but that's sort of the quote.
People get happy enough without the hour.
Any more comments, questions from the audience?
Sorry, I mean, yeah, please.
Jessica Wheeling.
Just a little background information, it has not been, happy hour has not been allowed in Rhode Island for many, many years. And there was legislation reintroduced due to COVID and the issue that restaurants and bars have been having mostly in Providence. It hasn't been an issue so much on Block Island with losing staff, losing money, closing. This was reintroduced by legislation, again, mostly out of Providence to try to help induce people to spend money in restaurants and bars. So that's where it came from. Obviously, doesn't maybe apply to Block Island, but that's the background of it. That's why it wasn't like,
Thank you, Jess.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution opposing Senate 2135 relating to alcoholic beverages, retail licenses, and happy hours.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Martha? Motion carries 4-0. Next one, opposition to bill, House 7198 relating to binding arbitration for municipal employees. Again, brought to us by staff. Mary Ann?
So this was brought by staff via the League of Cities and Towns. Binding arbitration for financial matters have been a state statute for public safety officials. This legislation is looking to do the same for non-public safety employees. So the resolution of there's legislation pending. The resolution before you is in opposition of binding arbitration for financial matters for non-public safety staff. So that's what's before you this evening.
Thank you. Comments from the council? Questions? Public?
Oh,
wait, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, Bethany can go. Bethany can go.
Hi, I'm Bethany Petrick. So yeah, I guess I was curious about the reasoning given. I wasn't sure if it was something that was drawn up by Block Island or perhaps, as you already mentioned, is from the League of Cities and Towns. Because some of the reasoning in opposition to this seemed a bit vague or non-specific. I'm looking at like the first two reasons regarding 75% of budgets in some communities. I'm wondering if our communities or our community is one of those, wondering how many communities. But specifically with language under reason number 3, this idea of blowing a hole in local budgets. The House Bill 7198 is really a safety net for municipal employees. It's one that's already enjoyed by some members of our community, like locally and at the state level. It's an opportunity for municipal employees to have a fair and living wage. It does not eliminate the steps that are already in place of negotiation, mediation, arbitration. Those things are still in place. But it's an opportunity for when those things or when those practices fail, or when an agreement cannot be reached, it is a safety net for those employees. And I know that our town council, current council members have talked about, some of you have written about the importance or the value of a fair and living wage for all town employees. And I would suggest that if paying a fair and living wage is blowing a hole in a local budget, that perhaps it was not a healthy, sustainable budget to begin with. And I also think that if we are in the business of ensuring fair and living wage for all town employees, then this would be something to support and encourage and not to oppose. I recognize that many cities and towns in Rhode Island do oppose it. I recognize that it was recommended by, the League of Cities and Towns to oppose it. Block Island has been an outlier before, can continue to be an outlier. Thanks.
Thank you, Bethany. Comments? Council?
Sure. One of the things that I thought was very, very positive starting 4 or 5 years ago when Ed sort of rescaled, reclassified, a whole lot changed in that, whatever that was, 4 years, whatever it was. And I think it, to my opinion, demonstrated the town's interest in getting sort of out of where we had walked and trying to get out of that. And I guess my question would be, do we need this in order to have the right position, have the right salaries? And I don't know if this gets you there.
Process started, like literally just, it didn't really even begin, it was just attempted, and then it was stopped and defunded. So that never came to fruition.
Parts?
A step plan was put in place that's entirely separate from regrading of jobs, which is done by a third party.
I agree.
And which has not happened at this point.
Right, but there was a regret. I mean, there was a lot done, or it sounded like there wasn't there? I mean, as far as step changes?
Yeah, there was classification was done.
Yeah.
I can't answer to what happened with steps changes. It was my understanding that working with the folks in negotiating to that to come up with classification where people should go to.
Okay.
Unfortunately, without Amy here, we don't have the numbers on this, but as I recall, a few years ago, that was one of the reasons we have so little play in our budget was the big increase in salaries. And I know I've sat here and heard people tell me that no one had a pay increase, and that's just not, is it true? Do we need more information here? I
could.
You want more information?
Well, I'm just thinking sort of a little bit of what's the up and what's the down on this? I guess my concern just to be right now, I don't know what the risks are. If one were to support it, or if one were H7198 for Block Island, I don't know what the risks are. And maybe you can help me with that.
This isn't for Block Island. This is a state statute.
Yeah, I know.
Which would lead to binding arbitration in financial matters for all town employees.
Okay.
So what would happen is you'd end up in arbitration, it'll be binding, and whatever the arbitrators decide, it'll be binding, and you have no recourse.
At the local level.
At the local level, exactly. And we have that currently for the public safety police officers.
Thank you, Mary Ann, for that. Bill, go ahead, David Lewis.
It's very simply, it's my clear recollection that when Ed Verge worked on this and it was adopted by council for the subsequent budget year, that it was all with regard to classification, and the recommendation and the adoption by the council provided for that to be implemented across 3 successive years.
Yes.
And that was voted, and Martha, as Martha points out appropriately, it was waylaid in some manner, which I'm not prepared to verbalize because I don't really know for sure, in the year of COVID, the first year of COVID, when we were operating on a bare bones. So hopefully that information, my recollection, is accurate and helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, David. Bill?
What's before you, it's just, it's about arbitration, it's not
Right.
about what our salads are. So,
No.
Yeah.
And I think that, the League of Cities and Towns, which is the guidance, at the very least, if you're gonna go guesses, I would hope you talk to your labor attorney.
Yeah, no.
It's not about, and hopefully, the town negotiates great, you never arbitration there. But it's about the rights that you have if it goes to there, so.
Kristen Bauman?
I think we need to clarify what's happening here. So we never got reclassified. There is no, we didn't change our grade class. Our jobs descriptions were not reviewed and determined to be in a different grade, which I think is what reclassification is. That didn't happen and it got defunded, as Bethany pointed out. That's no longer in our budget. If we go back 3-4 years, you'll see that in the budget, that we set forth money to do a reclassification project. Didn't happen, isn't budgeted for now. What did happen was a step plan was created to move current town employees and incoming town employees into reasonable living wage salaries. So we were just playing catch up. It's not like anybody like full steam ahead was able now to go buy a house on Block Island, right? Like that's not what we did. We just moved people up so that there was some reasonable accommodations to current town employees as well as employees that were coming in, right? So we no longer hired, I think I was hired at like $11.65 or something, right? Like, so we don't hire at $12 anymore. We hire at 14, just so you know.
Right.
We're hiring at 14, 35, 65. Anybody who knows that, I'm happy to hear it. But we hire at a 14 something. So the reclassification still needs to happen, and we're always hopeful that it gets funded. I'm hopeful as a town department head that we can offer jobs. We know, I go this way because this is where Dave Sniffen usually sits. We know that the town is like really struggling to hire in employees at the wages that we offer. We know this. Took a long time to replace the recreation assistant in the rec department. It's taking a very long time to fill out the land use department. We know the clerk's office is going through some changes. Right? It was like, so we need to do this. We need to hire people and reclassify jobs and continue on with the step plan, which is now done its 3, 4, 5 year term, whatever that was. So we're no longer doing those things, right? And what's before you tonight is about standing with your town employees. It's just about standing with them and saying, if you don't get what happened, if you don't get something fair in the negotiation process, you're still bound by the old contract and you're going to get something. That's what's before you tonight. Standing with your town employees and saying, you will get something, we stand with you. After X, Y, Z, A, B, and C doesn't work, we still stand with you. That's what's before you tonight. And I urge you to do that. I urge you not to oppose this. It was not, I don't know what brought to you by staff means. And if you want to clarify that, that would be great. I don't know. No staff person I know brought this to you.
Our staff, council staff.
You have staff?
Yeah, we do. We have a
Okay.
town manager.
Town manager.
Who
Okay.
looks out for the best interests of the town. This is why this is before
Okay.
us.
I'm just clarifying that. So that's what you mean. When brought to you by staff, you mean town manager. Okay, great. Thank you. Didn't know. So this is brought to you by the town manager and by I think the League of Rhode Island Towns and Cities is for this. We do not need to be lumped in with that. We have a budget that we are able to work. We just hired a lobbyist for 50,000. You have money. You're playing with money all the time in these meetings. You hired a lobbyist. We look at the budget. We follow the budget. We know money is being spent all over the town. You could stand with your town employees tonight and not oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Make a motion.
Did anybody want to see? Yeah.
Did you, David?
Or Bill?
First, let me thank Kristen for clarifying what I thought was a good memory on classification versus step.
Yes.
At least I got part of it right. But the reality is what you're being asked to do, ultimately, town employees are negotiating with you through the manager. What Kristen, in my opinion, what Kristen is asking you for, let me start differently. Labor and management always have two different sides of a coin. Labor has the right to strike, management has the right to lock out. By voting for this particular legislation, you're saying that the staff will never have to go on strike if they're happy with continuing indefinitely with the current contract in force indefinitely. I think you're negotiating against yourselves in this discussion. And unfortunately, what the state has done to the individual municipalities, cities and towns, is they're taking a blanket approach to what has traditionally been the purview of the individual municipalities or the controlling contracting body like the school committee. So, for decades, this has gone forward this way, and there's always this same standoff against it, same standoff between the state and the League of Cities and Towns. And as impassioned and appropriate Kristen's plea is, I think it's the wrong stance for council to be taking a position against their own rights. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, and also I think you need to take a look at the binding arbitration. I think it's getting a little confusing as to what it is. And I think if you look at look at what it means. I don't think this isn't referring to the old contract stays in place. Has to go to arbitration and arbitrate room. I think, Marianne, you should be familiar with this as far as Brian arbitration, how the way it works. So this isn't necessarily mean this old contract stays in place. But at the very least, I think you need more information if you're not comfortable at the very least.
This has nothing to do with old contracts continuation. It's strictly binding arbitration. So what happened with binding arbitration, it can happen. They get 3 arbitrators to do it, and whatever is decided amongst the arbitration, it is for financial matters based on this legislation, it will be binding.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Bill. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of the town of New Shawmut Town Council in opposition to House 7198 binding arbitration for municipal employees. Seconded by Sven. Any more discussion?
If I could just comment that we don't have the right to strike.
Thank you.
And any votes taken is not against employees, town employees. It's about town flexibility. So but I hear you. I got the words.
Can I make one more comment? I just think it's important to know that a lot of the reasoning here is regarding increase of taxes. And I think that's it would be misleading and inaccurate to scapegoat fair and living wage as the rise in taxes. Looking at our agenda tonight.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Martha? I'm in favor. Sven? Mark?
Aye.
Motion will carry 4-0. Next item.
Thank you for the discussion.
Let's see. Discuss and act on the resolutions regarding the initiation of legislation to amend tax rate structure on Block Island. Mary Ann?
So what's before you this evening is legislation that will allow the town to change its tax structure via ordinance. There's a number of communities that are currently allowed to do this. We currently have a four-member team that is looking at the tax structure. That includes Sven, Keith, and myself. Submitted this legislation will now give the town the opportunity to do that via an ordinance instead of having to go upstate to do it via a statute. So that's what's before you this evening. And just as a reminder to the council, what we're looking to do is modernize New Shorehams tax structure to make it a little more fair and equitable as it relates to cost for services on the island.
Thanks, Mary Ann. In the actual, let me just read it. Whereas Rhode Island General Laws 44.5.11.8 entitled Tax Classification sets parameters for local tax classification. And whereas any city or town may through legislation adopt a tax classification plan by ordinance with certain conditions. Whereas a number of cities and towns in Rhode Island have requested and attained statutory authority to adopt local ordinance to establish a tax classification plan. So I just wanted to read that so it was abundantly clear that we're just looking for permission to do this. We're not we're not changing anything as of now. We're just looking for permission to do this, and then the discussion will come after that. So now therefore be it resolved, the New Shoreham Town Council requests to change the Rhode Island General Laws 44.5.11.8 to grant the town of New Shoreham the authorization to adopt a new tax classification plan to provide fair and equitable distribution of taxes. That's what the resolution reads. Bill McComb?
Can you give an example? I'm kind of confused as to if this passed through, an example of what might be a reclassification or.
We're not ready to have that discussion.
No.
At this point, Bill, we're not ready to have that discussion.
We're just looking for permission to do
We're just
it.
looking for permission to do it,
To have that discussion, really.
to have that discussion.
It
It'll
has-
be in an ordinance, which will be advertised and come to the voters. and stuff like
I
that.
understand that, but like, just an example, what type of thing? I don't understand what the legislation is. I'm not for or against it. I'm trying to understand, so to change what, property tax, to change that, I mean, what?
It would have to be with property tax because sales tax we're not allowed to regulate. Keep in mind, even if we were to change the tax structure, we still have to comply with the, what I call the private weed bill, the 3050, which means we can't increase the levy more than 4%. So it's strictly to look at our current tax base, our current tax structure, and see if we can find a more equitable distribution of that tax structure. We're nowhere near ready to have the conversation as to what we're going to do.
What, or can I give a theoretically, or actually within the state?
There's
nothing to repeat. Oh, sorry, go away. Within the state right now, and in theory, we could do a homestead type of exemption. That is, it's currently within the state, so if we want to do that. But if we wanted to do a homestead and, I don't know, something else, we right now couldn't do that. So, and that something else could just be, you could think of a million things and I don't want to try and project, right? So what this does, and actually it's following Middletown. Middletown is pushing hard on this too, and a number of communities are now just trying to gain flexibility of simple tax changes. In Providence, they've got a number of things. So residency tax, whether you're a resident or not kind of thing and stuff like that. So there's right now, I think 6 towns that have flexibility, the big cities. Right now, most towns don't. Does that help you a little bit?
Tax, is it like the housing, the housing tax, the room tax, that type of thing?
Property tax.
No, it's really property tax. Right. So like a homestead. So just an example, if you do live here for a certain period of time, whatever we would define that as, in theory, then one could have an adjusted tax base. But right now, homesteading is the one that could do, but we can't do anything else. So it's really then, what's been very clear to me sitting on this little group is we can have a lot of ideas, but then we have to go up to the Capitol and try and argue our way. What I'd much rather do is have ideas, have discussions, many, many meetings, and then talk about it as a community and then figure out what we want to do. And this is gaining that flexibility. That's all.
mean, it's property tax, it's commercial, residential, there are all kinds of possibilities. If you look at the numbers in the tax book, it's sort of startling. What some people pay and some people don't.
So in some towns, they have, there's a property tax for commercial as opposed to residential, those type of things. So you have the ability to maybe adjust those levels.
That's an example. That's an example.
I understand, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution. Hang on a second. ClickBase is not the easiest thing to navigate during a meeting. Make a motion to approve, to initiate legislation to amend the tax classification, resolution 06-2022. Good enough? Sven, you got a better wording for that?
Just approve New Shoreham Town Council resolution tax rate March 7th, 2022, RO 6/2022.
Second.
Mark? Oh, any discussion? Oh, sorry. I don't know.
Trying to figure, we don't know. No, yeah, we do. Trying to make a motion on non-resolution. Sven made a motion, I seconded it. Martha, are you in favor?
Yes.
I am in favor. And Sven, are you in
I
favor
am.
of that resolution, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion will carry 4-0.
Thanks for the question.
Item number 11 is discuss and review New Shoreham zoning ordinance, section 513, accessory apartments. Mary Ann?
So if you remember at the last meeting, this came up and the council asked me to come forward with the legislation to change the zoning as it relates to 513 specifically, the sunset clause. So what's before you this evening is exactly that. If you look at the legislation, it is a strikeout of item number 4, which has the sunset of December 31st, 2020. I've been asked by a few folks as to why that sunset was put in the ordinance to begin with. And I chatted with a few people and we're not sure exactly why that was put in there. With that said, you were also asked as to how we proceed with this. There were some questions in that regard that was asked at the last meeting. Whenever an application is made regarding an ordinance amendment, it needs to be submitted, sent to the planning board for their review. And also they have with 45 days to get back and comment to the town council. I've already spoke with the planning department that they would put this on their agenda for March 30th. That's the next time they are meeting.
There's been some confusion on this, if I may. This is not a broad brush 513. This is very specific to accessory apartments owned by the town of New Shoreham and constructed for the purpose of providing housing for employees serving necessary local government functions, et cetera, and so forth. There's not a sunset provision on 513. It's only this section of it. Best of my recollection, it happened, there was a lot of turmoil going on at the time. I think we were in some lawsuits. The sunset was December 2020. And I think everyone will recall December of 2020, we were still pretty deep into where are we going, what's happening, are we going to get vaccinated? And it just fell through the cracks.
Council, good? I'm good. Tom?
And I think that's a critical thing because it is 513F, which is not just generally 513.
Yes, I think that's because
You're
people
exactly right.
asked me about it and I said,
Hopefully
I
513.
drew a blank because what they were asking me wasn't what was on the agenda and I just didn't have it in front of me at the time.
Okay. Public? Good. I'll make a motion to refer the section 708 or the accessory apartment, section 513 to the planning board.
No,
No?
Yeah,
we're referring to the planning board?
you have to.
You have to,
by
support.
Okay.
Take it from here.
Take the piece of paper and carry it down the hall.
For a second.
Second.
Second by Sven. All those in favor, Mark? Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor, and Sven.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item number 12 is discuss and act on cultural heritage contract regarding the South Fork Sunrise and Revolution Wind Farm. Mary Ann, you wanna
I was just having a sidebar with Millie on this. We're going to table this item for now.
table this item?
Yeah.
Item 12.
Yep.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. We got some we're gonna receive the correspondence from Keith Lewis and Sarah Bacon. Number 14, minutes, February 16th, open and close, February.
Andre, those are on clerk base.
What?
Those are on clerk base.
The letters.
Right. If anybody wants to read them.
And attachments.
But
There was a large attachment for Sarah Bacon.
everything's on clerk base. Minutes, February 16th, 2022, open and closed. Council read all the minutes.
Yep. Thank you, Millie.
Do we have any problems with the minutes?
I don't,
You don't?
no,
I'm just asking a second. You do?
I did not.
Okay.
neither closed nor open.
February 17th, open and closed, so those all good?
Yep.
Thank you guys. All right, I make a motion, we approve the February 16th, 2022, open and closed minutes, as well as the February 17th, 2022, open and closed.
Thanks, Beth.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Martha? I'm in favor. Motion carries 4-0. Number 15 is update on legislative agenda. There's a spreadsheet in there, things that we're working on. I believe.
Change something on
Pull up that spreadsheet.
That's the top ones right now.
That spreadsheet that we're looking into is also available on Clerkbase. I didn't even have that on. Mary Ann, I'd like to believe that there's legislation that's been introduced in the Senate that would allow party bikes statewide.
I just saw what you saw in the paper today.
Can we?
Yeah, the long 12 people on a bicycle.
Can we look into that?
I reached out to a lobbyist and asked if he could provide some information and can see what's going on with that particular
Okay.
legislation.
No,
we got something that came before us from, I think, no.
I thought it was, it might have been 12, it was a lot.
It was Molly had sent us just something.
Maybe I mismatched them.
No, Molly sent us something on party bikes as a point of info for another thing we were discussing. A party bus.
It might have been close.
Legislative agenda, okay with everybody?
I think it's just running list and we're not really taking things off there, right? We're just leaving stuff on.
Well, we can leave we take off the happy hour bill, the binding arbitration, which we just approved.
Change something over here.
Jessica Willie.
Yeah, I have been away for 2 weeks, and I missed the last meeting, but last time I was here, you were talking about the tourism improvement district. I see it's dropped off there without any comment, so just wasn't sure where that went.
Did you see that there's legislation statewide?
I did.
That's right, I sent it to you.
I've seen it.
I thought I
I've seen it a
even-
lot, but that's still, it was still something else
I don't know why I
before this group, and you had asked me to set up a meeting with somebody, and I
Right.
did set up a meeting, and then you have to push to April, so I got some more dates, I haven't heard back. Now it's on the list, so if you're dropping it or you're not interested in it, then you can just let me know, and I'll move it along, but I just don't see it on there, so.
I agree. We had a meeting on this before and we told Jessica that we were gonna put it on there and.
But hasn't it been preempted by the statewide bill?
Not really.
I don't know. Well, you probably know more about it.
I think we could at least offer a resolution of support or against. So we should schedule, the council wanted to talk about this with you. So I think we should schedule that discussion.
Let's be sure not to do the same thing.
Or do them both at once so we know what to do,
Yeah.
right? And
So
let's
the-
discuss it right in a proper way, sorry.
There is state legislation that's pending that may or may not come before, that will come before the General Assembly. which I will be up to comment on, but it's different than the legislation that we had drafted specifically for Block Island. It's actually not as, probably not as amenable to Block Island because it was written by Providence for more of a Providence issue, but it would cover the whole state. So sort of like what you were talking about a few moments ago, is that this legislation that I was asking for you to support was just allow this type of district to be created and nothing else. All the work would have to be done after it. So anyway, there is now pending state legislation. It's still, if that does pass, that would allow Block Island to create this type of district. Still have to go through all the procedures to actually create the district. And there's a few things in there that were included in the Block Island one. So the short version is they could run side by side. I don't think that they would, I don't think the state legislature would approve the only Block Island one, not the whole state one. It's a question now to see if that's, obviously that state legislation is not further ahead than mine is, even though I've been working on mine for a year and a half, and they've only been working on theirs for a few months.
There are more of them, Jess. Don't feel bad.
What's that?
There are more of them, don't feel bad.
Well,
All right.
they have a lot more money too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is there. I mean, I think it would be beneficial to the town to have the presentation from Civitas, so you know what this is all about, and help you further. But I don't, you know, and if you wanna put a resolution in favor of it, then you can. You know, one way or the other, I don't know if it'll help or hurt. I plan on being up there in support of that statewide resolution, but I still think that the one that was drafted specifically for Block Island.
It's more helpful.
better.
I thought we were gonna hear from some.
We,
I thought we were gonna hear from them.
we were never able to schedule it.
Okay.
Well, I gave you some dates and then you said, no, let's move to April because you couldn't do the March dates that I gave you or you were too much going on. So I got some 3 dates for April that would be a possibility, and I don't know if you've seen those yet. Those came right back to you after the last.
Okay, well, I'm sure they're in the packet somewhere, but yeah, we're thinking about March. Keith's not here tonight. I won't be here on the 16th. And then the next meeting is in April, right?
Well, you asked for a
I
meeting,
know.
not during a
I know.
council meeting. So I found 3 days of work with the Civitas advisor to zoom
Okay.
in. A sheet for her availability, to put that to you to see.
Ooh, schedule.
if you guys have those through. So,
No, so Millie, we're arranging those at some point? Is you arranging that at some point?
we have feedback from you.
We'll work it out. We'll get it on there.
You know, and again, that's not if you can't make it work and you don't have the time, and that's, you know, that's fine. She doesn't have to, it's gonna cost us to bring her up to have the conversation. It's gonna cost money. Which is fine, because I think you're gonna be hearing a lot about tourism improvement districts over the next few years.
Thank you. I thought we were doing.
What?
I look forward. I mean, not at the National in August.
Okay, I honestly, it costs you money to bring them here. And I've already told you, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I can be honest with you that way. But I think you should have a conversation with these guys to actually see if it's worth it to incur that cost on the outside of the council. To see, instead of incurring that cost for a pro forma conversation or not, that's what I think you should do. Because if it's gonna cost you money, then that money shouldn't be spent if it's unnecessary. So call these, let me know. All right, thank you.
One thing that's on this sheet, just so everybody knows, a couple meetings ago on the landing fees, it was discussed that Marianne and I would meet with Bill and somebody from Interstate, I think Josh or whatever. That meeting is being set up for next week just to get a conversation going as to what's in, what's out, what landing, how does that play a role? How does that work? And what are state discussions versus collection discussions? So I think, Bill, that is happening, or it's being set up quickly. And so hopefully early April, we'll have sort of a report out on that and decide where this goes.
Thanks, Sven.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the legislative items? Hearing none. 16, discuss and act on the acquisition of real estate, BIPCO property, plat 17, lot 35, where the premature disclosure would adversely affect the public interest. The item may be held in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A5. Any discussion or considerations related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or for the disposition of publicly held property where an advanced public information would be detrimental to the interest of the public and Rhode Island General Laws 42465A7. A matter related to the question of the investment of public funds where the premature disclosure would adversely affect the public interest. Assume anything we can say before closed session?
The information, I think is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, all right. Bill, got a question?
Yeah, I just don't know how this adversely, how this adversely affects the public. Why you need to go into closed session at this point here on this thing we've discussed for.
I would imagine we have a, I can say that we have a, an interest in a lot there. I think it would probably, the public interest would be negotiations for maybe the cost or to purchase something.
But is there anything that you can tell us about this, that would on this property? Or what because in your closed discussion, it would only be about dollars. Anything else about the property would be in public, what might be useful, or what would be done in public session. Right, because it's limited to your scope, which we'll discuss for the private property.
So we identify the property by plat and lot number in the, what you just read.
Right.
Yeah. Plat 17, lot 35.
Right. My point is, you don't have to go into closed session, you can opt to go into closed session. And I think that there's been discussion for 2 years about this property, or at least it's been floating out there. And, I understand there's I guess an appraisal or whatever it might be. And I just don't know, usually because you're going into closed session because you don't want to disclose what you might want to put on it because there's another bidder on this. That's not the case here. It's the two parties working, the utility district. So I just don't understand the reason why it needs to be in a closed session. Or certainly if you're to that point, why it's adversely affecting the public's interest by not having it at this point here. So.
If there's anything to report after closed session, we certainly will let you know. But I mean, the item 16 doesn't discuss an appraisal.
I understand that.
Okay.
So, but it almost is the reason you would go in is going to adversely, if you don't, it would adversely affect the public. So do you feel that your discussion is going to adversely affect the public by not having it open?
I don't know that right now because I haven't had the discussion yet. And if it doesn't, I'll announce something when we come out. David Lewis?
Yeah, he always sits there.
So Mike, simply put, the whole town knows what this is about, especially if you go to the monthly utility district meetings, which I do. So we know that this appraisal for that piece of property, Jeffrey's, the utility district's anxiously awaiting it and to hear what the town has to say about it because they want to move forward with their lives, which means in this case, Bill's in my life too, as utility district members. There's also your life. So are you going to share this appraisal with the utility district president and board of directors before have you shared it with them already, or is that going to be a result of your closed session?
I can answer that.
Record on sharing appraisals in this town.
What's that?
It's a track record on sharing appraisals.
Depends who you ask.
It depends who you're sharing.
All I know is, well, with Martha's point, you can be sure of one thing. The town, the taxpayers and the members of the Block Island community were certainly among the last to know about what was going on with the topic of which you referenced, and I think we should just drop it right there. So continuing with Bill's discussion, I think this is the first opportunity since then when you have to be more have the opportunity to be as transparent as possible.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And to answer your first question, yes,
So I'll be asking Jeffrey the same question
thank you.
in a couple of weeks.
Make a motion, we go into closed
He
session.
and I can along as well as all of us get along together.
Both. 17.
All right.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Bill.
I need to,
Thanks, Bill.
Rhode Island Council 94, AFS Local 2855, New Sham Flag Association, and the Town of New Sham and New Sham School Committee. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246582. Sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, and work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining and litigation. I'll make a motion, we go into closed session on items number 16 and 17.
Second.
Second by Sven. All those in favor? Mark? Sven?
Thank you.
I'm in favor. And Martha?
Aye.
Thank you is not an aye. Do you want us to go?
I said yes.
Okay. Motion will carry 4-0. We're now in closed session.
Really, thank you.
Waiting for the clerk to let me know that. We are. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to those still sticking around. Pertaining to items 16 and 17, just came out of closed session for. I want to announce that no votes were taken, and I'll make a motion to seal the minutes.
Second?
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Mark?
Aye.
Sven? I'm in favor, and Martha?
Yep.
Motion will carry to seal the minutes for 4-0. I will announce that the town council has asked the town manager to meet and negotiate with BIPCO regarding plat 17 and lot 35, and nothing to announce on item 17. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Martha?
Seconded by Martha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
And Sven? Mark?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
I love my little cameras.
Color coded.